Welcome to another edition of, but that's not important right now. I'm Ian Reed. I'm by myself right now. I'm waiting on Jared because he got held up on another meeting. With us today is Abe LeBlanc, and then maybe joining us is Quincy Ross. I was muted before, so I did a whole introduction, and I'm not going through that again. So I'm just going to bring on Abe, and then we're going to just start. Thanks for joining us. If you're new to the channel, we talk about advertising, and this episode is about food advertising, especially food sponsorship. So I'm going to bring in Avi, and we're going to start. And then when we get Quincy coming in, we're probably going to have Quincy coming in at another point in time. Hello, Avi. You come from a land down under, where the women go in the thunder.
The thunder.
Jared is missing this one because Jared and I had this whole plan, and well, I don't know. He got held back. He's talking.
He was going to sing?
Of course, Jared always sings. Have you never listened to our podcast? We always sing. How are you doing, Abby?
I'm okay. Just to find somewhere new to live.
Well, I don't know. You went down Australia. So what time is it there?
It's 8:34 a.m.
Oh, that's not too bad. I thought it would have been like 1 in the morning or something. I don't know why I thought
Well, that. I work all night.
Oh, what are you doing down there?
I do my PhD, but that's not for work really. I still work at PAHO.
Okay.
So at least until the end of the year, and they're in Barbados, so I work Trinidad time.
Oh, so you're doing that whole long commute.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Remote.
Wow, remote from Australia to Barbados. That's awesome. For people joining us and listening to us for the first time, we had an episode a couple of episodes back talking about the death of remote work. And that was an interesting conversation we had with Anthony and Quincy. You know, this whole idea of people not management deciding that they're not interested in doing this remote work thing anymore. So you're lucky, you're good, because everybody has to jump back in their cars and drive to work. And I've been seeing posts about people being in 3 hours of traffic, you know?
A lot of young people are getting remote jobs now, and it's working out pretty well for them. Mm-hmm. So because like you don't work for Trinidad anymore, you work for like companies that are abroad, and so because they want the talent, and of course it's not going to cost them as much. So they're fully looking into Trinidad and other Caribbean islands for talent, and they get through.
Mm-hmm. So you used to work with us at the agency. We don't name the company for legal reasons. We don't want to get sued because we want to try to release some secrets, but we don't want to say. And a lot of people who listen to us know who it is already. So we kind of like, we want to shout out to Kendall Tiloka, who's one of our hardcore listeners. You don't know Kendall.
Hi, Kendall.
Kendall used to
work with us. Of course I know
Kendall. After. You were there when Kendall was there?
Obviously.
Oh, okay. My memory is very hazy. But I was telling you.
I was there when Kendall was there, but I don't have any secrets to divulge.
Of course you do. We all do. We just don't know that they're secrets. I mean, you're so innocent. You're such an innocent person. Just so that we know what you were doing and what you're doing now. So you're not in advertising now. You're completely out of the game. Oh no, now.
I'm completely out of it. Yeah, right. And I enjoy the detox of it because, as you know, my core area was always health, social marketing for social and behavior change. So that was always my core area, but it's not very developed in the Caribbean. So it ended up being corporate advertising.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about that thing though, that social, what exactly is it, the focus? What is the focus?
Sure. So social marketing for social and behavior change is applying commercial marketing tactics to promote behavior change and social change for social good. So it's like a specialization that's marketing, yes, but it's aside from marketing, where we would promote like healthy behaviors, we promote like environmental sustainability and all those do good things, but it's a specialty. So it's not just a CSR campaign or something. Yes, we'll work on CSR campaigns, but it will be done a lot more evidence informed and different. So yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely not something that, we in our territory, as we always explain to those who are listening to us outside of our territory, we're very small. So, things like that is very niche. That's a very niche kind of thing here.
Yeah. It is.
But I mean,
so that's why the closest thing ended up being commercial marketing. But as you would know, a lot of like global agencies, they have different arms that focus on health. So you have like I don't know if I could call, like I think I could because it's global, but there's like Ogilvy Health, there's McCann Health, there's Saatchi and Saatchi Health. And there are a lot of like other agencies abroad, like Shape History in the UK and so, where they're advertising agencies, yes, but they promote solely social good practices and health and so it's their specialty.
But when you are at the agency, our agency, you are always on. Just remind me, when you started, they threw you straight into the food brand. And I'm not going to name the brand, but it was the food brand that you worked with for your entire time there. You didn't work on pretty much. Were you working on anything else other than UNICEF?
Yeah.
I know you worked with UNICEF,
yeah. Well, it wasn't UNICEF. This United Way.
Sorry,
and
United Way.
I was with them. I worked on United Way from the time I came in, from the time that I left, and I appreciated that because that was a little more down my specialist field. So I appreciated the fact that I was offered that opportunity because it kind of like helped me to, build experience in my specialized field as well as corporate advertising experience. But yes, I worked I was hired mostly to work on a food brand. And I also had other brands. I'm trying to remember some of them, but I can't really recall them right now. But yeah, over the years, I've had other brands, but like the sole ones that I stayed on for the entirety of time was the Do Good brand, which is United Way. And there was also a food brand, yeah.
But then when you left the agency, you went to a smaller company. You worked for... What was the name of that company? I can't remember the name. I don't know.
Yeah. So when I left the agency, I went to do my master's in health promotion. Yeah.
But you were working while you were doing that, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. No, I was going. This is the first time that I am ever working and doing school in my life, which is interesting in my ripe old age. But I left the agency to go to school. I left the agency to go do my master's and I did it in health promotion. And then I came back and I worked at a small agency. The dynamics much different because it was just a couple people and it was emerging. So like a lot of the processes that they would have had in the bigger agencies in Trinidad and Tobago, where they have different departments doing different things. You kind of had to do a lot of stuff on your own. So it was interesting. And I thought what was also interesting about working at a smaller agency is that they have a lot of talent. A lot of people are talented in many different things and not just one specialist field. So it was very easy for them to say, okay, we want to get this picture and we can't get it on stock imagery or anything, or it would look better if we get like a real picture and we just go down quickly to the client and take a picture, and edit it and put it up one time. I think that is what I loved most about the smaller agency kind of dynamic, because they were just able to do whatever, they didn't have to like fill out any forms or anything like that. So I think they both have their appeal. Yeah. So, yeah.
There was a similar situation with me when I went to the smaller agency in the beginning. It's quote unquote virgin territory. There are challenges, but there are, chances to do things right this time. But when you were at the company you went to after had worked with us before at the agency on the food brand. So you kind of you kind of just segued into, it wasn't like you were going into somewhere that you didn't know about. You had experience working with them.
Yeah.
they were one of the suppliers, or they were the sole supplier of?
No, they were one of. They were definitely
One of.
one of. It's a very talented group of individuals who did like photography, videography, and so. And they kind of branched out to be their own little agency offering like digital media and so. But their prime strength was videography and photography and so. And it wasn't just the food brand that they worked on at the large agency, but they also had like other clients, and they did pretty well. We always got, I think, there were a couple of awards that were won on because of their work, and they would also collaborate really well, and their end product was very strong. So it wasn't a problem for me to to just go and, work at their small agency for a while.
You weren't, like I said, you didn't jump into something that you didn't have any exposure to before. So
no, I didn't. No.
Yeah,
no. I stayed in advertising for a while too, so.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been in Australia? It's not long. You've only been there,
I have been in Australia. No, just a couple months. I came in January, but I resigned because after I left that small agency, I went to one of the larger agencies in Trinidad and Tobago. I guess it's probably the second largest, something like that. And I stayed there for about 3 years and 3 months. And then I went to PAHO, which is a total like multinational health agency.
And completely different from what you were doing before.
Well, no, it's not, because I know because I'm doing communication with them. So we're in charge of still planning campaigns.
But you're not in an agency. You're not in an agency.
No, it's not an ad agency, no.
Yeah.
You're more like on the client side in a kind of a way.
Yeah, well, that's what I kind of meant. So you've kind of experienced almost a kind of every single aspect of the communication, because Quincy likes to call it communication. He doesn't like to call it marketing or whatever. And I think I like to use that word.
It's much bigger than communication. So one thing that I never understood, and I asked my PhD supervisor just last week, I told him, I said, is it that social marketing is under marketing and communication is under marketing, or is it that the whole thing is communication and marketing is under communication? I mean, I don't remember his exact explanation, but he did have like a wheel, and I could probably share it with you as soon as I find it in this book. But communications is just one part of the behavior change process. Marketing is also a part of it. So every aspect has like different things that you look at, obviously, and there's 360 marketing as well, where you have to make sure that the product is in store, and so it all works together. It's not about communication being general and marketing is under maybe, or just marketing being a part of communication. I think it's like a whole. You have to look at it like just generally and see that there are different aspects to everything. But unfortunately. And this is kind of why I like the big agency. This is kind of why I like their breakdown a bit, because they have different departments that do different things in the entire communication or marketing, in the entire process. So they have like the way you activate products, like events, and so they also have like PR. They have their digital online, and then they have their offline traditional, and they have their dissemination group that does like advertising online and offline. And I think that model, I always found it was extremely interesting since I started advertising. And I guess I'm just seeing social marketing as a part of that as well, which is very interesting to me. But yeah, and I think a lot of like health entities, a lot of clients, especially who can't really afford like to have a full-time agency. I think a lot of them might consider the fact that marketing falls under communication when it really doesn't. It's like separate skills, and it's separate. We need every single aspect to work together. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I wish I recorded what he said and I played it back for you. But yeah,
that's a good start to your PhD, Abby.
Yeah, I could always ask him what he said. I have his book. He said he wrote it there. So
well, okay, yeah. I mean, you're going to be interfacing with a lot of people who wrote the textbooks. That's the level you're at now. So yeah. the reason why I was hoping Quincy would jump on, but I don't know if Quincy's going to be joining us. Usually he's at around at this time. But the reason why we wanted to talk about this is one of the things that we saw was this comment on Facebook that we both kind of commented on Jared's wall, which was about the Brunswick cooking segment that appeared on CNC3, which is one of the local channels. CNC3 is a news channel, but they do other things. And our experience from my experience on the agency side of it is that you kind of sponsor the segment, right? So that I haven't seen the segment. I don't know what exactly it constituted. But as far as I understand, in this case, it was CNC3 using their own person, chef or whoever, to prepare a meal using the Brunswick sardine or tuna or whatever it was product, and talking about how to make this dish, and then say it's sponsored by Brunswick, right? I don't know if that's what we used to do in the old days. Didn't we used to have our own show that we used to produce and then put it on? Remind me of what we used to do with the food brand. What did we used to do? We used to do our own show, but put it specifically on Facebook. What was the story?
So with the food brand, there were different things that they endorsed, which I thought was interesting, because there was a point in time where they did like sponsor a food show. And that was with like a leading telecommunication brand, which I thought it went really well. And from what I know, Quincy also worked on that. And what they also did is food videos, like recipe videos, which was very, very, very well received by the public. And that food brand was also very much grassroots. So it was also about kind of making dishes like everyday, using everyday ingredients to create creative dishes in the kitchen and dishes that are nice for kids. And so it was pretty interesting. And they also not only did like videos that showed hands, and so they also did videos that had kids in it, and so, which was really nice as well. So it was like very collaborative, integrative, and very inclusive.
We did some very slick stuff. I mean, I remember some of the stuff that was shot. It was very, very well produced. Pretty.
Yeah.
I mean,
everything was very well. Yeah, everything for that brand, I found was very, very well produced and very well.
It would have to be because it's an international food brand. It's an international food brand. My experience was before that, shooting these still photography shots for a lot of the calendars and so on. And one of the things they used to do is they used to bring a Venezuelan woman. She was retired, but apparently she was the expert in food preparation for photography. Okay. And she came from Venezuela. And I always remember this. She used to come from Venezuela with her assistant. The assistant, I think, was her niece or so on. Well, one of the things was her assistant was kind of an orphan. Because I don't know, you're too young, and I don't even remember because I was too young. So it was way before our time. There was a very, very bad earthquake in Venezuela, in Caracas, and an entire apartment block flattened and killed like thousands of people. And this girl's family had all been wiped out. And she was telling me this story, and she said, well, I take care of her and whatever. But they were very, very lovely people. And I was getting a good insight of what was going on when, just to, not to segue into something unimportant, but just to say that I used to get these stories of what was happening with this guy who took over, Chavez. And she was extremely angry at Chavez. She was like, this man is destroying us and destroying the country. And I realized she was very upper middle class kind of persona, in Caracas and whatever. But she could cook. I mean, she used to make some stuff there that was like amazing, and she used to know how to do this food photography styling thing. And I always remember learning about this stuff from just working on it and learning in the ins and outs and all that. So when I started seeing the stuff that we were producing, locally with what you all were doing with the various suppliers and with Quincy and so on, I'm thinking to myself, we have really, really come a long way in presenting food. Food presentation has come a long way since I started way back in the 2000s. When did you start at the agency? What year was that? That was what?
I started with agency in 2012.
Right.
Yeah, 2012.
Right. So about 2005, 2010, we had people coming from outside to style food. And now we don't do that anymore. We stopped share the client had stopped hiring and started having their own people. I think her name was Natasha Kandul. Natasha was doing the styling, wasn't she? Because Natasha worked under this woman. I can't remember the woman's name now.
She also did nutrition, and so very, very good at it. Yeah.
At the end of the day, we ended up learning how to do it, and then the internet helped. We were starting to see, and this is pre-Instagram of people shooting their food with their phone cameras. This is this is pre those days. Those are the days of where you have to make food and make it get it right. But now everybody is a food photographer, food takeouter, everybody can take out food and, think. Hello, Jared.
Hi, Jared.
Hi, Abby.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm pretty good so far.
Nice to hear your voice.
It's good to hear your voice too.
Can you explain your tardiness?
Yes, I can.
No, you don't have to. I'm only making fun of you. Don't worry. It's okay. We don't need to know. We're glad you came. Yeah. Abby and I were just talking about the development of food styling and food photography, because we were talking about this post that you had on your Facebook wall, and that has led us into this thing. But I was hoping that Quincy would have jumped in, but he hasn't jumped in yet. I don't know if he will. But a lot of what he was saying is that a lot of the presentation of food used to be foreigners coming and doing it for us. Now we do it for ourselves, and we do a fantastic job. Now, to come back to that Brunswick post, let me just read the post so we're all on the same page and we can talk about it, right?
Sure.
So
let's hear it.
A girl named Charmaine Babulal. I don't know who the Charmaine Babulal is.
She's a journalist, actually. She's been yes, she's a journalist. She's been with the TNT Mirror. She's had a career that spans over 4 decades. So yeah, she's not exactly a new kid in town. She's quite experienced.
Thank you for clearing that up. I had no idea. I didn't click on her. I didn't mark who she was.
Yeah.
But she made a good point, and I thought it was valid to talk about in the space of advertising and communication and sponsorships. You see?
Right.
For those of us who are listening, people who are listening, advertising involves a lot of buying airtime for the client, not just for ads. What would you call it? A sponsorship is the best way, but it's more than that. It's like is it a feature? Do you call it a feature when you do the little segments?
Sometimes it's a feature, but then again, there are times when you do like an entire show or a program, like the way Sylvia Hunt did back in the 70s and 80s. By the way,
all those videos are lost. By the way,
and all those and that's really hard. That's really heartbreaking. That to me is heartbreaking because
we talked about that in an earlier episode.
Yeah, we did with Timmy Mora.
Yeah.
The thing about it is the show itself would be like about 30 minutes in length, and her main sponsor, in fact, her only sponsor for all those years, was Console Appliances. There was a time when we actually manufactured fridges and stoves right here in Trinidad and Tobago, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever she'd be there cooking and stuff like that, It would be she would use console stoves and console fridges and so on and so forth. And the studio would be ready, and she would start her recipes. In fact, she has, I don't even know if it's still in print, but there is a book that kind of chronicles her recipes. So long before you had people like Jason Peru or Wendy Rahamat, there was Sylvia Hunt. And I know it's the only way we will ever get or be fortunate enough to get an episode of At Home with Sylvia Hunt is if somebody has a VCR somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago and they might have taped it by accident for whatever reason. And if that is the case,
interestingly enough, and this is how life is on the island.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, my brother Robert's best friend, Jason Zambrano, his mother was a Hunt. And and as far as I understand, Sylvia Hunt was his grandmother or grand aunt.
Wow.
I'm not too sure. So what I could do is I could throw it out to Jason. Maybe Jason and his family and them have it. I don't know. That's a long shot.
It is a long shot, but it's worth going into, because I mean you're talking about part of our history too. That's part of our visual history. And that's
because I mean that was one of the first. We didn't have anything like that until
there wasn't anything like that. There wasn't anything like that. Like I said, she was doing this from my God. I remember when I was an infant, they had that show on.
Yeah.
And
it was from the time we had TV, 1962.
Yeah, and right from 62. The thing about it is that, well, it wasn't just her. I mean, even before Sylvia Hunt, you had media personalities like June Gonzalez, who did a special cooking segment. This is long before Sylvia Hunt, and this is the kind of thing that again we don't really pick up on. I mean, it's amazing to me how our tastes have changed over the years, have evolved over the years, because, and yet at the same time, we still rely to some degree on the old standard. For example, if you're talking about the Naparima Girls cookbook, which is like the Bible in terms of how we cook in Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of getting the recipes and so on right and things like that. But in terms of actually having a show, a television show chronicling how we cook, Sylvia Hunt is the go-to individual, you know. And then
So I remember hearing about Sylvia Hunt. I think it was from you, Jared, because I would have worked on Food Brand with Jared.
Yeah.
I would have worked with Jared.
Yeah.
And but when you speak about evolving as well, you look at even that Food Brand that we worked on, how they used to take photos before when I started was totally different to how they took photos when I left. And that was just a period of about 4 years, because it ended up being less food styled and perfect, and more we want we want things to look as if it's being used. So we want a kitchen to look more dynamic, you know, like we just made this dish, so we want probably some flour that is a little spilt to the side or something like that, you know, to kind of make it look more alive.
Make it look real. You have to make it look real and relatable. You see?
But what we did realize too is that I don't know if Jared remembers this as well, because I remember he did work, as I said, he did work on the brand. I think that Food Brand that we worked on, I don't even think I knew, was probably one of the first local brands to start to repost pictures of people's dishes. And they even had a competition once where they invited people to style their own food, and they judged it and they gave people prizes based on that, because we started to collect people's food and reward them. There was a point in time where it was we gave away something like, I think it was 100 and something baskets, like food baskets, hampers to people who share the most photos on the Facebook wall. It was Facebook at that time only. Just people who share photos of their food on Facebook wall as a way of thanking them for following the account and so and for being so engaged with it. So yeah,
that was pioneering. That was
Yeah.
pioneering. We were. I mean, none of the competition was doing stuff like that. The other big brand that exists in Jamaica, they started doing that after. We led the way. We led the way, and we have to give kudos to the client because she was very open minded. And surprisingly, she'll be the last person that I'd ever think would be open minded, which she was. I mean, she even joined Facebook, and she started to like Facebook, and this is a person who is, you know, the personality is, how to put it, Jared.
The personality, you could say that the personality was at odds with what it was we were trying to convey in terms of being open minded, in terms of being technologically savvy, as it were.
Yeah.
And
she grabbed it. She took
it like a duck to water.
No, but she took a little while. Huh? She took a little while. But I think Ave
it took a little while to convince. That's true.
I think Ave was the right person at the right time, because Ave has this way of talking to people, and you could listen to her now, where she has this very nice voice, and our general manager said so. She said, you know, she
never thought so.
At one point, before Ave came on the scene, our general manager came to me as an aside. Our general manager came to me and he said, because I was working heavily with the Foodgrams at the time, and he said, you know, they might have to take one for the team. And I was just looking at him like, what are you talking about? My head was my head was on the bank at the time. I was doing bank work at the time, and he says, you need to take. I think it's very conspiratorial. You need to take one for the team. Huh? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's either you or somebody else who works on this brand is going to have to take one for the team. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, you're going to have to be friendly.
Oh, like, no. No, I don't think so. No, it's all right.
I'm like, no. He's like, we'll talk about it later. He never did it. The one thing about it, he was kidding around, huh? But I mean, the point about it, in the old days, that's how you get things done, you know. Anyway, we digress, and we have a lady in the room, so we don't want to, we don't want to be disrespectful. But the story was, what happened?
Hang on, don't worry. Got it. Yeah. How'd you guess?
We always have.
Yeah, Daisy. Sorry. Daisy. I'm sorry. I need to explain to my. Yeah, I need to explain to my audience that I live with a cat, 10-pound cat. Her name is Daisy. And
10 pounds.
Oh my God. That's a 10-pound big pussy, John.
It's a big pussy. It's a big pussy cat. 10-pound calico. And
how old is she, Jared?
She is 7 years old.
Oh.
She's 7 years old, and she's still quite a handful. Every now and again, she notices that whenever I'm doing something, she wants to be the center of attention, and that's the kind of feline she is.
But one day we'll need to bring her on, right? When we do a live show, because I'm working on. I think we'll have to put her face on for at least a little bit. She needs to get
if you can speak cattish, that shouldn't be a problem. But we'll see.
Yeah. So to come back to our client, I mean, the joke was, in order for things to get approved and do things or whatever, you'd have to go that quote unquote extra mile. Not saying that at all. Not at all. But what I'm saying is that I think when Ave came on the scene, and things fall into place. I always say, things for the whole social media phenomenon had really started to kick in around 2010, 2011. So we were already moving into that sphere. And Ave came right in and faced the gauntlet of all of this madness that was going on. At one point, it was just Ave doing all this work. And
that's true.
I was like, oh my God, I think Ave is probably going to get a gun and shoot everybody at some point in time, because it's really a lot of stress. It was a lot of stress. It's trial by fire. But that's how it is, when we talk about agency life and so on. But to come back to come back to these segments. Come back into these segments. This girl, what she said was, Charmaine Babylon said, CNC tree all year. Okay, by the way, sorry, that's the other thing I was told. We talk too Trini. You have to start speaking in proper English for our international audience. I got a
Well,
comment
listen.
this week.
Who said that though? Who said that though?
Who is it that told me that? Trini told me that. He said you have to be. I know. But what I'm saying is, he said, I think the accent it will throw people off. That's his opinion. That's his opinion.
That's his opinion.
Right? So I'm going to talk in an English accent, or maybe I should do my Indian accent. I'm going to speak like this.
No. You're good as you are, Ian. Don't worry about it. No, I mean, look, we for the most part we speak a lot of standard English on this podcast, and whenever we go straight into full Trini, we go straight into full Trini, and we're unapologetic about it, because that is who we are. I mean, if we're going to address an international audience, obviously we're going to use standard English. We're not going to use dialect. But when the occasion calls for it, and we have to use dialect, we will use dialect. And I'm prepared to take issue with the way we speak. Anyway, look, we're deviating from what we're talking about here.
Yeah. And Ave needs to run off just now. So
yeah, and
Charmaine said, all year, get real with that Brunswick cooking segment during the news. You're putting dill and feta cheese on a pasta salad. Is not everybody could afford the ingredients. The price of feta and titi now could provide a family with a couple of healthy meals. I can't even say all you're propping up the status quo, because even the status quo catching their ass in this round. While you have plenty time on air, use it wisely. What about teaching people to stretch $1 instead? Stoops.
I mean, yes.
Right, so before I get you all to jump in, what I want to say is, I think Charmaine needs a little bit of an education, because Kiss Bread did this years ago, but they didn't do cooking segments. They did a lot of radio ads showing how you can stretch your dollar with Kiss Bread. Now that's a gutsy move to make, since Kiss Bread, or bread on the whole in Trinidad, is always on the firing line when they raise a price. Everybody's like, we're going to boycott bread when they raise the price. So it's a gutsy move for them to say that. But I mean, I don't think all brands do, and Avi can probably back me up with this. Our food brand never made it out to be that we were this highfalutin, out of reach personality. You know? So I'm a little concerned about what Brunswick is doing. But then, as Kinsey was explaining, maybe the people that they're trying to attract aren't the Charmaine Babulals of this world. I don't know. You'll tell me. What y'all think?
No, I think, look, here's the thing, right? The reality of the situation is the vast majority of people who live in Trinidad and Tobago are not going to go and get feta cheese. Because, as Charmaine rightfully pointed out, if you look at the price of feta cheese, you're going to boil for your mother. It's expensive like hell. But what Ave said... I don't know what
feta cheese is.
We don't even know what feta cheese is. But anyway, but as Ave said, as Ave pointed out, what you could do is, in order to be resourceful, you could come up with something similar to it, but not identical, using ingredients that are not as expensive as feta cheese. You could use cheddar, for example, which is still reasonably, affordable. You could use that, or you could use instead of using the particular Brunswick product, instead of using salmon, you could use sardines. I don't know. Something. Try something that could it sounds revolutionary. It sounds something that you've never really tried before, but you could use that in its stead. I mean, there are people who would still rely on the traditional recipes if you wanted to make like a sweet bread, or you wanted to make something like I mean, Easter's coming up. You want to make hot cross buns. What's a quick and easy way to do it? What's the affordable way to do it? And do something like that. So yeah. But every now and again, if you really wanted to come up with certain recipes to how make it look more attractive, yeah, come up with recipes of the everyday, because like I said, the vast majority of people watching the news on CNC3 is not the status quo. They're probably watching something else. They're probably tuned into Netflix or watching whatever, but maybe not the news. But that's just my take on it.
That's not important right now.
That's not important right now. Exactly.
I just want to mention advertising is also aspirational. So maybe you're thinking you could be aspirational. One day you could afford the feta cheese. Anyway, Avi, what do you think?
I am there with Jared with being somebody who is dairy. I don't have a lot of dairy, kind of dairy intolerant. They normally propose that these kind of people could have feta, even though feta does have a bit of dairy in it. But I would prefer if I get an option for my diet taste along with what you're prescribing or proposing. I'm not even thinking money, but I guess it's because maybe I don't really eat on a budget. But I do think that the options are very probably necessary, especially when it comes to dietary restrictions. Now, you don't have to shape it like if you want something cheaper, you could use cheddar, but you could say, sometimes you may not have these ingredients in your fridge, but you may have this. So you could do this instead, and not necessarily, like a dollar stretcher or something like that. At the end of the day, you want to empower people. I think that's what the food brand that we worked on is quite good at. You want to empower people to know that they could make fancy stuff too. It doesn't have to be like a regular bread and cheese sandwich or something. You could make it cheese in a different kind of way. If you want to like make it for occasion or something, you might want to buy dill and feta. But if you're just making it at home, a regular dinner or something, you might have this in your fridge. You might have some parsley or something that you could chop up and just like sprinkle it on top or something like that. Or you might have some chive, and that works as well. So yeah, I think what that post kind of brought out is the need to have some options for people, but not necessarily the way that it was communicated, but more, just like nudging at the fact that you could be a little more diverse in what you are communicating to people so that they're able to follow it as well. Yeah.
I think one of the good things
we were talking about tone yesterday. Knowing tone is important. So Brunswick needs to know the tone of not only themselves, but what's going on around them. And one of the comments Paolo Kernan wrote on your post, Jared, is not even a television station is in touch with what is happening on the ground. So, I mean, there's a social, economic aspect to this whole comment. But what I'm saying is as a marketing advertising company, in this case, I don't think an advertising marketing company was even involved in this. I think this was the TV station doing it on their own. They're not too cognizant of what's really, okay, Brunswick is an expensive brand. Let's make it even more expensive by adding feta. You understand? But one of the things I wanted to just mention, I was hoping Quincy would have been here. And I'm going to read what Quincy wrote in the chat because I wanted for him to elaborate this thing. He says he don't want to jump on the talk, but recipe vids in 2022 had to reach all there because we run out of regular sensible recipes since about 2010. Now, I don't agree with that. I think our food brand in the agency since 2012, up until this point, we have done some fantastic. And as Ave said before you arrived, Jared, we had a period of time when we were getting people to supply their own food-styled food, so how they did the food, and how they did the recipes. So I think innovation is still there. But at this stage, to create a simple but innovative recipe that is unique today takes skill that most people don't have, and would also require the viewers to have a certain level of skill to attempt also. Now, I could debate that, but he's not here for me to debate it with him. But what I'm saying is that he makes a kind of valid point that we've just kind of been remixing the existing stuff, like how to make a better pastel, how to make a better ham and cheese and cricks. You know, it just you just don't see it. You know, the minute you try to put like, all right, feta cheese is innovative. It's innovative. But yes, people can afford that. But at least you're trying something else. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I think, look, the reality of the situation is that we are in a time now where our choices are a lot more varied than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, you could say you wanted something pretty basic. And if you wanted to come up with a regular, quote unquote, regular Trinidad recipe, you had your basic ingredients. You had your dough, your pasta, whatever. It was there. And now, as time has gone on and we've been exposed to so many, this plethora of cooking shows from overseas, when we look at that, you know, we marvel at it and we ask ourselves, well, why can't we try something like that? Why can't we do something like that? I think that, and what is really disconcerting, I find, is that we have a ton of cooking shows over the years, and the attrition rate that has happened is so high among these cooking shows that they start off with a lot of promise, start off hot and sweaty. You look at it and you think, okay, great. This is a show that can have legs. This is a show that can last pretty long. And then as time goes on and the novelty wears off, so does the viewership. So again, the challenge.
But again,
really,
it's hard to compete against.
No, and I know what.
Joe Public, because Joe Public is going on Instagram and posting photos and videos of themselves, and now TikTok. Like this wonderful girl. I don't know what her name is. Ave, you know the girl who's cooking with White Oak. She cooks at White Oak.
Oh yeah.
Well,
are you talking about?
I love her.
Are you talking about the blogger who? I'm not sure. I don't know if we're talking about the same person. Are you talking about the funny blogger who did like a shot with the watermelon in it, with the white oak, or are you talking about like a serious blogger?
No, she made stewed chicken. She was making
stewed
chicken.
I have no idea who you're talking about. That's interesting.
And she said, and to add, you know, some people is cooking in milk, but not me. I just add this, and she bring out the white oak.
That's so cool, though.
I know.
I love that.
But the thing about it is, she's so what's the word? She's so I want to use the word ditzy because she's not ditzy, but quirky. She's so quirky. You know, it's
I feel I know who you're talking about.
Just let me see if I find it.
I wonder if it's
I commented
I think
on
it's the same person, and this is not the same person who made the shot and put the watermelon into through the white oak over it, and then she tried to do something with an orange.
Rochelle Sheds. Rochelle Sheds.
I told her the name.
Rochelle Sheds. What's her TikTok? Let me see. What's her TikTok?
Oh yeah, I think I know. Yeah, I think I know you're talking about.
Rochelle Sheds 1. I had a shout out to Rochelle Sheds 1 because she's gone viral and she's just too sweet and too cute. And she's making this stuff on TikTok. And she just like, I just gotta throw rum in it. And the secret to everything these days is pour rum in it, obviously. But I mean, what I'm saying is that you have people like that you're competing with as a brand. Now, I don't know, honestly, I haven't even thought about whether she being paid by White Oak, by Angus Stewart to use the brand. But the thing is, and we've discussed this before, we talked about Fallon last week, you know, the brand Fallon.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you have a food brand like the one we worked on at the agency, which was part and parcel of the culture, because it was part of the culture. Everybody was all in everybody's homes. Mm-hmm. You're not Fallon anymore. You're part of the thing. But you see, when you start saying, well, we're going to add feta cheese to that is when you're Fallon. So it is tone and is audience and all those kind of things. I mean,
Yeah.
people are laughing at this girl because they think she's doing crap.
I feel it's the same girl. I feel it's the same girl, but people were also like commenting and saying that Angostura needs to hire you. We love how you do this.
I don't think they're making it public that they are.
But the thing is, a lot of these companies that are not just in Trinidad, remember, they also have to think about the fact that if they endorse people and that person goes too off book, it could have legal ramifications for the brand.
Yeah.
And it could also tarnish the brand's name. So that is something that they have to also check. And even the food brand that we worked on, there was some red tape, of course, and it was new territory for them because they were very accustomed to doing things a certain way. And they also mandated to do things a certain way to a point, So they also have to, I mean, in the spirit of being relatable and going viral and stuff, they also have to consider the fact that it needs to, work within some kind of brand guidelines as well.
I think an interesting exercise in order to marry a brand's reputation with, say, how people prepare meals on a regular basis. I think what is interesting and what it really I think will resonate with the public is if you have someone who can go to a person's house, for example. There was this media personality, this radio guy, who what they used to do, they would go to particular places in Trinidad. They would talk to people, what you're cooking, what you're bubbling up, and whether it's a pilau or you're making garlic pork for Christmas, whatever it was, they would show you step by step what it is they were doing. And this is where people could look at it and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that.
They're empowered.
Exactly. That's the word. They are empowered. They are looking at it and they're thinking to themselves, I could do something like that. And then they show you the ingredients that they use. And if those ingredients happen to be the brand that we were working on, so much the better. If it was some other brand, fine. But the bottom line was that you could be it figuratively killed two birds with one stone. One, you could be aspirational, and two, it empowered you to the point that, you could see people like you, the regular Joe or Joanne making this kind of dish, and you could say, I could do this. This is so easy to do. There's a guy on Twitter. I think his name is Badawi. He has
he's really good.
He's very good at what he does.
Quincy too. Sorry, Quincy and Badawi, and they're very good at those.
Are the kings of these,
Eat a food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, eat a food, exactly. And they are the types of people who would say, well, look, it doesn't have to be, if you want to try something new, it doesn't have to be super expensive. You could use this, you could use that. And with him, pardon me, you're talking about just basic ingredients, everyday ingredients that you can use, but it's done in a truly creative style. And I think we need more people like that. And we also need to really, get in touch with more, again, like I said, more people who are on the ground, so to speak, and talk to them and say, well, what's going on? What are you doing? What are you cooking? Let me see how you're doing. And they could add a certain ingredient that you never even thought was possible. You could say, wow, really? That is how you do it? I never thought of it that way.
That's Quincy. That's Quincy. Totally Quincy.
And
totally exactly. Very creative cooks who just, add these new dimensions to things.
And if you could look at that and if you could see that, they could say, well, yes, I could get behind that. I just thought that the whole, I posted Charmaine's, I shared Charmaine's post because I felt it was relatable in the sense that, there are times when you look at that and you think, well, what's scene on? Why would I want to do something like that? But I understand it from Avi's perspective in that you could try You could try more affordable alternatives, or there could come a time when you would want to do something like that, when you have the funds to do something like that, and you go right ahead and you do it, and in that sense, this is to take from Ian's point. This is where it becomes aspirational. This is where you get to say, yeah, I can achieve something similar to that, or even identical to it.
Yeah, so you do the fancy version.
Yeah, you could do the fancy version. You could do the fancy version. You could make, if you wanted to make to give you an example, if you wanted to make a particular spaghetti sauce, and there's a way to do it, and you have the basic ingredients. If you want to add, say, tomatoes to it to enrich it even more, or if you want to add some Angostura bitters, whatever it is, to it, and you have your basic sausage and you cut it up, and you say, well, look, maybe you could use some olive oil, maybe you could use even some red wine, and there you go. You got something there that would really hit the spot. But again, is the way in which it is done, the way in which you market. It's not just the marketing of the brand itself, but you're also marketing the reason behind the making of the recipe. There's a way to do it. There's a way to actually tell people, well, this is what you do, and you could skimp on this, but no, put some of that, put a little bit more of it, right? Good. And then you have it.
There's a famous meme, not famous meme, there's a meme I always remember reading years and years ago, where there's a question, it's just two lines, like, how much of this do I need to put in this recipe? And the answer is, when your ancestors tell you that's enough, child.
Yeah, when they say stop.
When the ancestors say stop, that's when you stop. But John, I wanted to say, when you use spaghetti sauce as the example, I learned how to make spaghetti sauce from The Godfather.
You want to know something? You want to know something? Let me let you in on a little secret. That's how I learned too. That is how I learned too. A little wine. Yeah. Because when I saw that, I
also updated it when I watched Goodfellas. Don't let the sauce stick.
But if you take some cheddar cheese or even cottage cheese, what you do is that you put it there and you stir it in, right? And you'd be surprised at how much flavor you could get when you add it to that. It is divine. It is just amazing what you could,
Well,
people don't know,
guys,
they just don't know.
If you're hungry before lunch, if you're listening to this before lunchtime, right? We were happy to make your choice for food for lunch. Avi's time, unfortunately, has run out. Avi, you need to go and find your
new apartment.
You see, you use a Australian thing there. You see, you're going for an inspection. I'm like, what the hell are you inspecting your car? What's going on?
But even in Trinidad, we call it inspection. No, are we gonna see the new place?
I don't. Is that what you call it? I never heard of somebody. Well, I maybe not.
In Trinidad, we call it inspection too, but we just say it different. We just say we're gonna see the new place or view the new place or something like that and see if we like it. But here it's like inspection. You come in to inspect the property.
I'm going and check this apartment and coming back.
Yes.
All right. So thank you,
Thanks,
Avi, for coming. Really
thank you for having
and
me.
We would like you to come back at some point in time. So, if this is a good time for you, we always will appreciate if you would jump in and give us a little 15, 20 minutes. And
okay.
No problem. Thank you.
We'll see how it goes, but thank you so much. I enjoyed the discussion so much.
Thank you. You. So,
even though I didn't know I was live in the beginning, so don't judge me.
Okay, because I did a whole 5-minute introduction by myself, and the thing was muted.
Oh, I didn't know I was live at all. I was talking to you like normal.
See?
It's only after when you started talk to the audience, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. What usually happens is Jared and I usually talk a little bit and get things and introduce and say who the person is and all that. And then we bring the person in. with Jared.
Okay.
Because he came late and whatever. So it's different. It's interesting. I think our listeners would be like, oh, this is different. Variety is the spice of life. So
Definitely.
add
cooking metaphor. There we go.
Add your feta. Add all the feta you want. You wonderful, wonderful rich person.
As long as it's not, because it could be Boba Feta, but that's a different story. That's not important right now.
Okay. Dad, what are we defining before we go? What are we defining?
What are we defining?
What
are we defining? No. What is a good? Oh, what are we defining? My God, this is hard. What is feta cheese? Feta cheese. Yes, what is feta cheese?
All right, because I have no idea what it is.
That's a good
one. That's a lie. All right, go on. What is feta?
Okay, feta cheese. Feta cheese is a rather expensive cheese that's Greek in origin and said to be highly nutritious. But
that's not important
right now. No.
Thank you. And Quincy has just messaged to say he just woke up. So we're going to have to tell Quincy some other time. All right,
that's
guys.
All right, Quincy.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See you.
See you.
Have a good one.
Bye.